And Lori Hunter was with us briefly and has to dash over to the Peabody. We understand that. Chris Popov.
Here.
And Charlie Parker.
Here.
Okay, very good. Our first order of business, somewhat delayed because of our pause in activity. We're now well underway with the town meeting behind us. The minutes of September 10 and September 14. I know some time has passed. Nonetheless, I hope you've had time to look at these drafts, and I think we'll take these one at a time in case we have to make any changes or corrections. Comments on September 10 minutes?
Just that it was weird to read back. I started reading and I was like, oh my gosh, that feels like forever ago.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, maybe we can do these as a bundle. What about September 14th? Comments, corrections, additions, deletions? Hearing none, I'm going to ask for a motion to accept the minutes of September 10 and September 14 as drafted. Is there a motion to that effect? Where'd that come from, Charlie? Chris, thank you. And is there a second, please?
Second, Dawn.
Dawn, thank you. Okay. And roll call, Booth, aye. Guriello?
Yes.
Hughes?
Am I a voting member? No.
Oh, good point. Yes, thank you. You're right. We did change how we set the table. No, you're a necessary member, but you don't have to vote. Thank you. Okay. And then I wonder, what that does for quorum issues if that comes up, Dawn, but we'll get to that later.
Yep.
And Chris Popov?
Yes.
And Charlie Parker?
Yes.
Minutes are accepted. We'll share those with the larger committee, Dawn. Okay, with that, we are resuming and turning ourselves over for the purposes of this meeting first to our partners at OPM, role and function of design subcommittee, in that we're reconvening now and going into this DD phase. Peter and others on the OPM side and I discussed the need to pause long enough to really get clear on our responsibilities and obligations. So who do we turn it over to on your side, Ian?
Me. Thank you.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. So just to take a step back, we've got this is the agenda for today, jumping into the third item here. So I'm going to go over that as well as the schedule, and then I'll turn it over to SMMA for kind of a design update on VM items that were accepted last year and have been incorporated into the design. So jumping into this item here, we worked with Court to try and put together essentially a charge for the committee during the design development phase here. So, you know, the way that this reads is, you know, the committee is really here to preview what's going to happen at the greater committee level. You know, essentially a week before each one of the full committee meetings, we're proposing a design subcommittee meeting to present materials and design iterations here. And these are the proposed dates, kind of systematically going through design iterations. And it's really to give the committee an understanding of the progress of the design documents, and just checking in on deliverables and just making sure that that the design iterations are consistent with the decisions that were made during schematic design. So just making sure that the design is consistent with the intent of the schematic design there. So so part of that is asking questions, making sure that you have a really good understanding of the different elements, the nuances of the design. And then, if there's any feedback that SMMA might need, providing that type of feedback throughout this process. So I think the overall intent here is to continue to have the design subcommittee meet through design development and then kind of taper off and no longer have, design subcommittee thereafter. So again, for the design development phase and really just a good place for the design team to check in and just make sure that it's consistent with the schematic design intent that we talked about last year. So that's the general.
Yeah. So Ian, I see this as a review function. It gives you and SMMA another layer, if you will, of review and dialogue. I'm seeing that the subcommittee wouldn't be making recommendations necessarily either to the building committee or back to SMMA unless there are changes that would require something more formal on our part. Is that accurate?
Yeah, that's accurate.
Okay. And can you speak for a moment to how our work might coordinate with that of other subcommittees, notably sustainability, I suppose?
Yeah, I mean, there's elements that will be reviewed in the design subcommittee meetings that are kind of crossover with sustainability to some extent, but it's really it's going to be what we're talking about today with the exterior envelope items. But it's, we're not going to get into heavy discussions on, HVAC and ventilation and that sort of thing, as we would with the sustainability committee.
Are they operating on a sort of similar calendar, or is that question not even relevant to us?
I need to look at the calendar. Lorraine.
We'll get to that.
They're on a
Okay.
they're on a delayed calendar because we need to advance the MEP, and the MEP follows the architecture a little bit. So they're going to be on a slightly delayed calendar to you guys.
Got it. Thank you, Lorraine.
Sure.
Okay. All right. Questions from subcommittee members? Look appropriate and clear to us all?
I have one.
Yes, please, Charlie.
I even have my hand raised.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, so as relates to the work of the committee as a whole, we're going to get into during the design phase data on the conformance of the architecture and the design and the plan to the expectations I suppose we have for budget. That's what the estimation process is all about. Now, how does what we're doing relate to the estimation process and to potential resolution of issues that might arise as those estimates come in, either in conformance with expectation or not? It's a little bit hard for me to comment on this document without understanding the overall process for the design phase, which I take it to end when we go to final bid. So
can I,
we're looking at one little piece here. We're not looking at we're not starting at the top and working our way down. We're starting with a subcommittee and not tying it back to the overall process. I think that's reasonable comment.
so Charlie, not to put Rain on the spot, but
I'd kind of like to have her maybe expand upon what I'm about to say, but that's a good question. And it's an important point. So as we go through here in the third bullet, we talk about, we're going to be what we're going to be doing at the first meeting. So we're looking at floor plans, et cetera. This is exactly why this is the main reason why we have this committee, is we have a solid budget that was done, reviewed based upon the schematic documents. So as we go through here, we want to make sure that the design is true to that, which we are completely confident it will be. And so that you can be able to speak to the overall committee that says, yes, we're looking at this. We have an estimate coming up here at the end of this first phase of design. And we feel as though as a committee, we've gone through this, we understand it. We understand that they're right where they said they were going to be at the end of schematic design, or there has been a tweak made, and this is why, and this is how it will affect the cost. So this is so that we remain true to the budget the next time. And I don't know whether Lorraine wants to add to that or whether that answers your question.
So I would like to add, so Charlie, specifically around the estimating, I see that as a full building committee purview at this point. I think all of us are seeing what's happening in the economy right now. None of us predicted this when we finished SD. So the way I would see it working, Charlie, is as we go through estimating, if we determine that there's an issue, the full building committee may ask us to go back and work with the design subcommittee to come up with ways in which we can bring it back on budget that impacts the design, or they may choose to keep it in the full building committee purview. It's gone both ways currently on other jobs that I'm working on, because it's such a fluid issue right now that it's sort of day by day and week by week. But I don't see this design subcommittee dealing with issues of the estimate outside of the full building committee. That's my opinion now that we're in DD. And I don't know if Dawn or Pat want to comment as the co-chairs.
I was going to say that's what I would expect, that any major issues that come up as it relates to the cost estimate would be the full building committee, unless that committee decides that this committee needs to look into something that maybe relates to options or scenarios that would address any estimating issues.
And I would, if I may, I would agree. I think that the most efficient use of the design subcommittee is to stay focused on the design and not get distracted by the budget until we have the estimates, the true estimates as we get back the bids from the contractors, and then that is a full committee conversation.
And just for reference, there are 3 more cost estimates before this project goes out to bid. There's the end of DD, which is like this summer, I think, 60% construction documents and 90% construction documents. So we'll be tracking along the way. And my assumption is that SMMA will be designing to what our current budget is based on our SD estimate. And, we'll have 3 opportunities to adjust if needed. But that's a greater building committee, decision.
So just to kind of comment on some of that, the expertise in all of this stuff, as we spend all this time looking at these plans, is going to be in the design subcommittee, not in the main committee. So you're going to be trying to deal with issues at the main committee level. I suppose the members of the design subcommittee will have the more expertise to comment on this stuff at those main meetings. But yeah, I mean, it would seem that there would be a role for the design subcommittee in dealing with issues as they arise, because we will have spent quite a bit of time sorting them. But either way, I guess it's fine.
Well, and I'll note that we have recommend authority and nothing beyond that. And I think Lorraine said it well, the circumstances might dictate more or less involvement specifically around issues to be solved as we go. Let's keep an eye on it. Ian, back to you.
Thank you. So the next section here is just a schedule review. This is a snapshot of what Lorraine presented at the previous building committee meeting here. So this is just the design development schedule and bringing it through. The big milestone here is going to be the estimating package. So we're setting up the estimators for that so that they're prepared to do their estimating again, and it'll be the same process where we have both estimators reviewing and generating estimates for the job in May, or late May, early June, and then circling back the estimates and any proposed value management. Hopefully we don't need to go there, but as you see, the market's a little crazy right now. So, and then ultimately getting to a final DD package, by July 1 here. So that's what we're all marching towards. There are the milestones in between that we spoke of as well with breakout meetings. So this is kind of hard to read, but it's, lays out all of the full building committee meetings, the design subcommittee meetings throughout the process. And I just kind of zoomed in on the design subcommittee meetings here. So it seems like Thursday mornings at 7:30 works well for everyone. So I just kept that in mind as I set up these dates. I know we had a kind of a week of window for each one of these meetings, but I plugged in Thursday as placeholders here. So meeting 1 is again reviewing updated floor plans in progress, exterior elevations related to the VM items, which are exterior facade items. Meeting 2 would be almost a month from now, reviewing the auditorium, cafeteria, gym, team commons, and giving a landscape update as well. Meeting 3 is a month out from that, in the 3rd week of May, with a comprehensive update of the overall design and digging into the finished palette as well. And then the meeting thereafter, we will have the estimates in hand. This is just kind of a first review of the estimate and VE considerations at that point, if any. So that's
And then Ian,
the schedule. Yep.
the full committee meetings would typically be a week following.
Yes, that's right.
All right. I'd advise us to check in with school staff about April. I don't know how many of them are going to be on holiday that following week.
Okay. That's all I had for schedule portion. I can turn it over to Lorraine and her team.
Great.
Thanks, Ian.
Thank you.
I know Will is going to share his screen, but before he does, I wanted to say La Fela Padre Konadic to everybody, for today is St. Patrick's Day. So I wore my green.
Yeah, I noticed suddenly an absence of green among some of the others, among us, me included.
Pat's got her green on, Dawn's got her green on. Mine is bottle green, because going to the nuns, they always made us wear bottle green. So that's what you
And
do.
it is evacuation day as well.
Only in Boston, right? Only in Boston. So
Anybody needs a 5-minute recess to change their garb, let me know.
so Bill, I think you're going to share your screen, and I'm going to let Bill and Saul and Keith take us through. As you know, coming out of VE, we had 4 specific items that were sort of, I will say, not quite tangible in their scope. And what we wanted to do was get into those, understand how they impacted the building, and bring that back to you to show you what they look like now that we've integrated those VE items and have some discussions around them. Take it away, Bill and Keith and Saul.
Great. Thank you, Lorraine, very much. And to everybody on the call, good morning. We're glad to be back in front of you presenting our continued work. We did participate in the kickoff meeting that was maybe a month ago. We didn't have a presentation or speaking role in that meeting, so we didn't get an opportunity to congratulate you on the successful town vote. But on behalf of our team, we want to say that this morning, congratulations. We're excited to advance the work. We can go to the next slide, Bill. So as you were just discussing, we do have a very specific agenda today, and that's for very good reasons about keeping pace and making sure we hit our milestones. But I just wanted to take a minute before we do that to revisit our charge, right? This is early in the formulation of the thinking about the school. And our next slide, please. And our collective work with you and on behalf of your community is to create an exceptional learning environment, right? That's finely tuned to your pedagogy, your culture, and your place. We don't want to forget any of those things that this whole foundation is built upon. We go to the next slide, Bill. And you know, this weaves in with a lot of the conversation, but we understand that those aspirational goals that you have as a town and as a school, they're bound by enrollment projections, by an educational plan, by sustainability goals and cost. And we're working within all of those parameters, but we just want to remember what the overall charge and aspiration is to make an exceptional school for the town of Concord. We can go to the next slide. I suspect you guys, you've been involved with this so long that somebody could wake you up in the middle of the night, shine a light in your face and ask you what are the primary drivers of the school. This is just a reminder of your site, the existing building position, and the parameters that influence our work. So we go to the next slide. And this is where we end up at the end of schematic design, right? 143,510 square feet. The building is located in the southwest portion of the site. It's just at the upper edge of the plateau. It maximizes solar efficiency, maximizes open space to enable you to get all of your playing fields in there, is very judicious in parking and vehicular circulation so as to yield that ability to maximize the playing fields on the upper plateau. And it's organized around your team teaching model. And it also the entire organization of the school is beneficial for you to support community engagement, right, without pulling people into the educational portion of the school. So with that said, we can go to the next slide. We do get to today's agenda, right, which is very specific, right? It's about footprint adjustments. It's about material substitutions. It's about glazing reductions. So we're going to walk you through that. And I just want to say at the outset that we went after these initially because it has an impact on the footprint of the building and also the exterior envelope. And those are major drivers and parameters that support both site development and engineering advancement. So we need to kind of reconcile the footprint, understand the impact of those glazing adjustments relative to cost, mechanical performance, interior development. And so Bill and Saul are going to work through these in a kind of sequential order relative first to the footprint, and then we'll show you how we are continuing to advance the facade in meeting these value management goals. So Bill, I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks, Keith. Can everyone hear me? Can you hear me? Sorry.
We can hear you, yeah.
We did parse this agenda apart a little bit because I think it's going to flow a little better. So we'll dive into the floor plans and removing that 934 gross square footage, and then Saul will take you through the exterior. and some of the advancement we see there. So as written, this VE item to remove that square footage was imagining taking that chunk of locker rooms, support spaces for the gymnasium, and that the OTPT room, and sliding it in. And when we did that, we didn't, it created some confusion on the northern face, aesthetic confusion and misalignments. So rather than doing that, we did a little bit of both, where we slid it down and then slid the gym up. So we've aligned the north face of the building so that that's a nice, clean, flush elevation, and then reconfigured the mechanical spaces on the south side. And the point here is we were at that 143,510. We've removed the 934 square feet. And so our new target, which we are on that, we are meeting that target, is 142,576. So I'm going to dig in.
Bill, can you go back?
Yeah.
So put it into plain English for me. What now is consolidated? Because we see a very clear evidence of a corridor and not so much on the revised. So what's being dropped specifically?
So that VM item was essentially removing that corridor so that all the locker rooms are accessed off of the gymnasium.
Just as it suggests here. Okay, thank you.
So students coming in and out of class will have to travel through the gym to the locker room, which we've done in other schools, and there's no issue on that. The PE teacher's office and their locker rooms are also accessible on there, and all of the gym storage is accessed through the gym.
Got it.
Bill, maybe worthwhile to note that the OTPT access is not across the gym floor. You can get there directly from the corridor, but the locker rooms and PE teachers and some gym storage, all of that is accessed off the gym floor.
Yeah, and we've kept the success of the previous layout, so the bleachers are on the opposite end of the lockers to help organize the public coming in and separate that from the athletes, so that this can be a really efficient layout for game day and any other events that happen in the space.
Thank you.
I have actually two comments. In your next round of user meetings, you may want to talk to OTPT, see if they want to direct access into the gym, so that if the gym's not being used and they want to use it for some sort of therapy or training, they may want direct access to it. Just as a comment. My other question is on that front elevation. I see what you did aligning it. What is the capacity of those locker rooms? Less than 50? Do you need a second way out off that north elevation?
We'll double check square footage. I don't believe they're over 50 at the moment. So
I don't believe they are either, Don, but
Yeah.
if they do, we'll have to put an exterior door issue.
Yeah, just something to think about on the face of that elevation. Most locker rooms, I end up having to put a second one in. So just, okay. Those are my only two comments.
Thank you. Those are points well taken.
So from there, we're just going to walk through the floor plans and look at some advancement there. So a lot of the changes you're seeing are bringing in that VE item and then ongoing coordination with mechanical and structural, which is typical for this phase of the design. So the biggest change is the gym, and then you're going to see the media center has been adjusted to correspond to the geometry in the floor above. It was not a VE item, but it was a direction from this committee in schematic design to remove any cantilevers on that second floor. So you'll see in some exterior perspectives, and I think Saul can speak to it more, this south edge of the media center has been rotated to align to the main entry to create that gesture, which tracks into the landscape, and we think will be a really elegant plaza on that south edge for the dining, the cafeteria space. Everything else remains largely the same. There are minor changes to integrate shafts and mechanical and ongoing coordination, but the experience and aesthetics remain intact. So we'll go up to that second floor and you can see the result of when we removed that overhang, it created essentially a pinch point. So we had to reconfigure this whole level. Without that overhang, we could not have 5 classrooms along that south edge. So it's a little bit of a Tetris play, but we have all of the classrooms very nicely proportioned and sized. And then we've introduced the stair, which drops down right into, or we've continued the stair that drops down right next to the dining and along the circulation on the ground floor. So the art rooms maintain their northern exposure. The world language classrooms are still situated along that common corridor to create a path there. And then the ground floor remains the same.
So go back
the-
one slide. Sorry,
Yeah.
sorry, Bill.
Yeah.
This slide should be labeled what?
Oh, this should say, excuse me, this should say upper level plan.
All right, just catch it for next week. Thank you.
Yeah. And sorry, this should also say lower level plan. And that concludes the
Bill, it
plan.
looks like
updates.
Pat has a question.
No, I just a suggestion, when we're presenting this to the full committee, if there's any way to make the slide a little bit more readable and clarify what the spaces are, some of us may not be as quick on the draw to remember exactly what spaces are what, or even just using your cursor and pointing out the difference, the world language spaces and the, just to be a little bit more visual for some of us who need that.
Yeah, and I apologize. It has been a long time since we presented that. I could go into that detail a little more,
Great, thank you.
just to give everyone a refresher. So I'll work left to right. The blue is the gymnasium we've been speaking about. This light green color are all of the special education classrooms. And then the darker green is any classroom. So that combines the on-team and off-team. The only other off-team are the world language classrooms that are not on the team. So you're looking at a science, and then however these educators wish to arrange these rooms: math, social studies, English.
Mhm.
We have the workshop room that's shared among a grade, and then the breakout rooms around the team commons, which is this third green color here. Administration is in the pink color, right off the main entry. The music is co-located with the auditorium, so we can have access through there. And that's in this yellow color. And then the media center is the purple, and the blue is the cafeteria.
Bill, when you mentioned a workshop room, can you tell me more about that?
That workshop is, it's that 500 square foot room for, I believe that's the educational term. I don't know if Justin is on.
Yeah, my
it's
memory's
the-
failing me. Was this the equivalent of the once makerspace?
No. This is they break out, and it's either,
Oh, teacher workroom.
no. It's a workshop for students. It's a classroom
Oh,
for either enrichment or catch up. It's a specialty class that all students take, and there's one per grade.
okay, so it's an RTI kind of thing, I
Yeah.
guess. Okay, thank you.
You know, I would just comment here, Dawn, made a good point about our next level of engagement with the educators. We do have a series of kind of more detailed programming sessions coming up, and our sequence is very intentional. We wanted to adjust this footprint so we can reconcile the overall square footage. And going on in the background, that's not evident today, is we're continuing to work with our primary building engineers. We're establishing the structural frame, identifying equipment locations, major pathways through the building to serve the mechanical systems. We wanted to get those primary pieces in place prior to going for a more detailed review with Lori and Justin and their team. That's actually scheduled for next week, and our intention there is we have several sessions scheduled, and we'll meet with them and talk about exactly how we can fit out the team classrooms, the auditorium, the art rooms within the bounds of the program, the square footage, and the parameters that a structural frame, the things that really drive development of a building at this point, obviously, is the exterior envelope, but also the structural frame, the mechanical pathways, and the vertical circulation, right? Those things get fixed, and so now we have to work within those bounds. And this is all, very similar. They're just minor tweaks and advancement of the building organization that we established in schematic design. So that's our next step relative to floor plan advancement.
Great. Thank you, Keith. Thank you.
Can I make a couple general comments? It's Dawn.
Please.
On the classroom bar, the eastmost stair, I don't know if it's, some of these may just be visual. That looks really tight. And I'm imagining if any of the kids down that end want to go up or down stairs, they're not going to traverse all the way down towards the front entrance to use that stair. So the other one, which looks a little more generous in width. So just something to think about. The other thing, if you go up a level, yep, thanks. Two things here. Check your dead end corridor length. And again, there's no scale on this, but over near the world language classrooms. In the geometry of the opening, down to the lobby, the lower level where the entry, that looks like a pinch point where it's sort of a rectilinear cutout and an angled. I would say that maybe wants to open up a little bit. So just a couple like visual things that are jumping out at me, but things to look at.
Bill, for the benefit of everybody in the room, put your cursor on the location where Dawn's talking, right? Yeah, there you go.
Well, I don't know. That looks close to a dead end corridor scenario where the stair is, and that, just check it. Just food for thought. And then the other thing is that pinch point right there where you can see it widens in the opposite direction of the flow of traffic. So yeah, just something to think about, because there could be groups of kids coming through and all of a sudden they're squeezed down. So those tight corners start to become problematic when you have a bunch of 8th grade boys trying to walk through there together. Suddenly there's pushing and shoving, trying to get through. So just something to think about.
Yeah, I think that's a prime subject for evolving as we continue to look at the interiors.
Yeah, that's perfect. And I know it's early DD, but just visually, those are a couple things that I see, but those are my thoughts.
The dead ends, the common path of travel has all been verified by us, and we have a code consultant, so everything's meeting code.
Perfect.
All right, no other comments. We'll press ahead.
All right, I'm going to turn it over to Saul. You're on mute there, Saul.
Morning, Saul.
It's great to see everyone again, and thank you for the opportunity to present the sort of development of the project. What's exciting to us is not just the resolution of the value engineering decisions, but it's also the development of a language that integrates these moves into the larger project to give you an exceptional an appropriate building. So there's a couple of decisions that were made, and then we're sort of following up with them. And the first one is there's a certain brick that I'll show you in a second. Certain brick items that were being changed to polished face CMU 4x16, which is actually a very elegant and very beautiful, almost like a Roman brick proportion. And in the next image, you can see these items, the lighter brick, and Bill, if you can show that, in the front of the building is in red, right? And in the back building again, on the south side of the building. And the darker brick that we're replacing with that special CMU is in the light blue. But we wanted to develop a language and integrate those moves into that language for the entire building. So if we go to the next image, you can see on the north elevation in the bottom, we've always had the brick as these special panels that are lifted on a darker base, right? So now we're replacing the base and the infill between the brick panels with a darker CMU. And we followed up with the same sort of approach on the classroom part of the building, where we're introducing this base and ending the base on the left side of the drawing, allowing these special panels of brick to be lifted up and sort of almost treated almost like as a painting or something that's special. And this sort of follows what we've shown much earlier in terms of the architecture or the traditional architecture at Concord, where you have articulated bases lifting up a more refined and special material. We are following up with the same strategy in the south side of the building. And as you know, the special sort of outdoor classrooms are on that side, on the academic side. And then we have a cafeteria sort of pad and media center patio up above there. The left side of the drawing is going to be almost invisible because of the woods and because there's no public engagement on that side of the building, with the exception of a path that will be used for egress. So the implications of this in 3D in the next image. Bill, I think you skipped. Bill?
We'll go back one.
Didn't we skip an image?
No, apparently not.
Oh, okay. If we can go then to the next one. The implication of that in terms of the way we would develop the spec, because we are trying to make sure that there are three bids for each component of the spec. We will be working with 3 brick companies, 3 CMU companies, and sometimes they're the same, but not always, and 3 manufacturers for the wood elements, the wood look elements, and each one would have to be sort of calibrated in terms of the permutations and combinations, because you could wind up with 1 brick company and 1 CMU company and 1 wood company, and all of them have to work together. And we'll be developing that with you and showing you the sort of the palettes as they can emerge. And here you're just seeing the sort of the extent, the range that each company has. We would like to make sure that the heavier components, the brick and the CMU, are regional, so you're not transporting the heaviest material in the project across the country. Next image. So the next value engineering decision was to reduce some of the glass in the link. It's a curtain wall, and the way we did it is without really affecting the experience within, is reducing the top, as you can see here in the diagram, and also taking a little bit from the side on the left side and creating a frame that captures the lobby. And three-dimensionally, it works much better. So we think all of that is an improvement on the design, not just a reduction of glazing. Any questions up till now, or?
I'm just curious, you say this is better. So some of us thought this was a necessary loss. What are the upsides other than cost, Bill, that you could solve?
Well, I mean, some of it becomes a little bit sort of in the sort of the realm of the visual world, in the sense that before we had these pieces, these sort of ribbons of phenolic panel, just slamming into the stair, and three-dimensionally, the two pieces were not integrated. By closing in the frame on the left side, as you can see, the horizontals now run into a vertical. It begins to kind of capture the component of the bridge as an element, and allows it to sit more comfortably. And you'll see there's a fold in there, and allows it to sit more comfortably with the bridge itself. Also, the glass is no longer just coming down and sort of ending in the bottom. We have a base to the bridge. So the upsides are slightly visual, but we still think that they're upsides. And we have sufficient amount of glass to make that place a sort of a light-filled, wonderful place for students to arrive, gather, or have any functions sort of that they want in this in the building. And what's really nice about that is that the corridor that links the entire school is usually embedded in the building. So you might get some borrowed light from the outside, but when you arrive to the center of the school, which is the bridge, there's sort of an explosion of light in there and views to the outdoors that make it special. And all of that is still the same, even though we reduce the amount of glass.
Very good, thank you.
Sure.
Yeah, I think it's just, we really, when doing this, thought about interior and exterior. If we just reduce that head height, we would end up with this long, very short strip of glass, and the proportions of that did not look right on the exterior, and then it was below the ceiling on the interior. So this reconfiguration really helped make that interior condition feel right and maximize the daylighting on those interior spaces as well.
Comments, questions? No, all right, thank you.
So now we're looking at sort of where we at. And you can see here, this is the north side, the more public side of the building. And you can see here how the brick elements on the academic side of the building begin to sort of be in the family of the brick elements on the sort of more administrative and public side of the building. And you can see how the sort of the language of the base sort of lifts those elements up. Next image. And in the back of the building, in the south side, that is, facing the woods, you can see here the alignment of on the left side of the overhang that Bill mentioned earlier in the plan. But you can see also how the subtle tilt of the media center begins to open up that cafeteria plaza or sort of outdoor space to the rest of the landscape. And we're currently working right now with landscape with Michael, integrating the learning spaces, the area below the lobby into one large sort of public sort of amenity learning space for the school.
Okay, good.
Next image.
It might be worth just briefly mentioning that the roof screens are still under development, and I think this is the first time we're seeing them. And our current feedback is that they're needed on the south end. So
south and west.
Yeah, and that's what we realize here.
And you actually, yeah, if you don't mind going back to the previous slide. With this current configuration, we will have the units exposed, but we think that's okay.
I think we
So,
skipped by that. We skipped by that comment on the screens. Maybe we'll hear more about that later.
Well,
I can
so-
give an update
yeah.
on that if you'd like.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Which-
we've sent over our preliminary data to Ascentec. They've come back with, based on the noise measurements they've taken at the property lines, we do need it on the south side, but they've also given us other opportunities for attenuation of our HVAC system. So we're looking at, what we can do to the HVAC design for attenuation at the units to try and mitigate needing those screens. So the goal would be that we can eliminate the screens because they'd need to be 12 foot tall, but that is not a given at this time, Charlie, and some of the cost that is associated with mitigating the HVAC, may be more than we wanted. So it may be a trade in the dollars from putting roof screens on to improved enhancement of the attenuation of the HVAC. So we're going through the options they've given us right now. They gave us 16 different options to look at for attenuation. So we're going through what that means to our designs. And at a later date, we'll bring that back to the committee on, what we'd recommend to do.
Yeah, it's
But for now, we'd like to demonstrate them just in case.
ongoing, and we just want to be transparent with what you were seeing there.
Thank you.
So now we're looking at the front of the administration and public part of the building. And you can see here that the sort of softening of the background of the gym, of the higher part of the building, of the gym and the auditorium, actually allows the front to pop out and read more clearly. And you have a view right now from the bus sort of arrival area right into the entry of the building. Next image. This is looking to the east, and you can see here the relationship of the canopy to the area of the lobby and the bridge, the stair to the left of that, and how these pieces begin to kind of stitch together to make that sense of public space and arrival place. And a closer view of that. Where we actually replaced what we had on the sides, on the walls with gabions. Right now it is going to be concrete with liner, and we're going to introduce places where you can have vegetation actually grow on the walls. And eventually these will not be concrete walls, they'll be completely covered with green. And you can see here the sort of, we're beginning to work on the programming of that space in between the buildings and under the bridge or the lobby. And you can imagine arriving to a place like this, which is really unique and special, and it'll be sort of a, I would say, an iconic place for the school and the community in terms of a relationship of a building to the landscape. And all of that is sort of appropriate for the town of Thoreau in the sense that that's a gateway to the woods beyond. Next image. And this is the view. Nobody will see this except a few birds, but we thought it would be kind of the south side of the building will be nestled in the woods. And we believe that the sort of the breaking of the building begins to kind of create a more intimate sort of sense of spaces and on the north side and the south side as well. But you also can see here the language of the of that longer CMU creating the base, and again floating the special break up. And I think that's it for.
Can I ask a-
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, Saul, it's Dawn. Can I ask
Hey,
a
Dawn.
question? Your,
Sure.
hey, is that your elevator tower or your stair tower that's going up over the
Which one?
bridge?
Go back.
Yeah, the image prior.
It's both. This
What's the material on that?
CMU.
That's CMU.
Is that's CMU on CMU? Meaning it's a applied CMU right to the outside. I'm
Applied
wondering
CMU
if
finish.
Still a veneer.
a veneer, exactly.
veneer.
So
Yeah.
I guess I'm wondering if that wants to be like a lighter material to make it go away rather than something that pops. I don't, do you have a view from the front? of
We
that?
can actually, yeah, it is a lighter material. It just somehow it represents, because it's a north face.
I see. So it's the
yeah.
backside of that. Yeah.
the
just something to
backside of
think
that. It's a
about. So
lighter
not a lot of
material, yeah.
people are going to see it and it reads differently. Definitely.
Yeah,
from the front.
and
That was-
it's sometimes, yeah, it's sometimes these renderings sort of respond to the sort of daylight that the model causes. And if you go back to that next image,
Yeah, I don't mind it from the front. It sticks out here, but like you said,
Yeah,
maybe it's only birds and it's not a big
it-
deal, or maybe it's an opportunity to save
No.
some money and
honestly,
put a
Don,
different-
this is actually the same material as the front, but because of the lighting of the model, it just wound up being darker there.
okay, just food
It's
for
ma-
thought.
yeah, yeah,
You might be able to do
absolutely.
something different, put some metal or something. If no one's really gonna see it, why spend the money on? Anyway,
Yeah, that's the thought.
something to
Yep.
think about.
Sure.
It's the first time I'd seen it in this view and it pops
Yeah.
out. And like you said, it could be the shadow, but
Yep.
John, I think we'll find that the CMU is cheaper than any metal right now.
it could very well be, but then you have to hold it up, right? You have to structurally, I don't know.
Yeah.
Weigh your options.
Yep.
Yep. Absolutely. And now let's look at the sort of, we haven't really spent much time looking at that side of the building. And what we're developing here is that what you're seeing on the right, on the sort of the base, which is the locker rooms and part of the gym, which is a lower component, and it has that brick pattern. And it begins to intersect the larger volume of the gym and sort of kind of enter that area. That larger face of the gym looking west is going to be CMU, but the finer CMU. And then there's a darker element of CMU on the right side, all the way, Bill, if you can point to that. That breaks it down. And that element, actually, it's very difficult to see here, integrates with the base of the building. Now, on the right side, there's a wall and it's hidden behind the trees and the screen and the bus. Bill, can you point to the screen wall for the mechanical area? We're bringing these three elements together on that side of the building. And even though it's concealing service, you would never know because it integrates into the sort of face of the building itself. And I think we have one more view.
Yeah.
Nope, that's it.
And what are those mechanicals that you're just, mentioning there?
It's equipment it's equipment and loading docks, and the entire service component of the building is behind that.
Transformer, generator.
Okay, got it.
Is the generator gonna have a stack?
Yes.
Yes, they always do. Yeah.
Just something to think about and
Yeah.
when you visualize it, those are often taller than the adjacent building. And if it's over near the gym, it might be substantial.
Yeah, we just have to do an analysis on that.
Well, one of the nice things there is that they're, well, I mean, we're certainly not going to be able to screen the stacks, I don't think, but we'll take a look at that.
There's no opening, so it should be able to be fairly short.
Yeah.
As you know, Don, it's like a 10-foot minimum per DEP off the top of the unit. So, but it's usually done in a stainless steel. It's, it's not awful compared to some things.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen some really bad ones with very large guy wires that have to hold them and it just starts to become an eyesore. So.
Yep.
One
So
other
we'll
question, could you,
Sure.
sorry, one more thing.
Sure.
Can you go back 2 slides? And if you said it, I missed it. What's this? Yep, that gray material between the gym and the sort of admin. Right there.
Oh.
Yep.
That's CMU.
Oh, okay. It just renders differently. Okay.
I think it's a light CMU versus a medium gray up high.
Okay. Thanks.
Don, we have this sort of strategy where the cutting walls of the building are the lighter color. facing east-west to sort of express the front of the building is almost like as a veneer, applied veneer. And it's also trying to kind of demass the building in terms of its volumes, because there are larger volumes. And one thing that I actually sort of forgot to mention is that the background color, the gray in the gym up top, and also in the on the side, is a CMU that has a slight bevel in it that begins to introduce sort of a horizontality and some kind of striation to the building, that even though it's a background build material, it does have some texture, visual texture.
Great. And will that front veneer wrap a certain distance to give it like a,
On the side, yes.
on the
it's-
side? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Can you go, it's very subtle and it's very elegant. And it doesn't begin to create too much noise, because I think that we wanted to foreground the elevation, you know, the brick. And Bill, you can show how it wraps on the other side, on the west side. And you can see the sort of very subtle striation there.
Yep. One other question, that's wood phenolic on the foreground in the bottom, the lower right. Are those individual panels or are they?
No, that's not
scored?
phenolic.
That's not, that's the brick.
That's the
Where's the
brick.
phenolic?
The phenolic is just on the bridge
Just on the bridge. Okay.
and on the canopy.
Okay. The rendering makes me think the other way. Okay. Got it.
Well, remember that the whole striation came out as a result of sort of wanting something more organic.
Yeah, I remember.
So-
That was
so-
kind of Heather had
Yeah.
pushed for that, which I thought was a good comment. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so the phenolic are actually large panels.
Yes.
Okay, between the visualization and then your precedent board that had like the smaller panels, I was just going to suggest you.
Oh, these are
score 'em rather
yeah,
than
these are
have-
sample panels.
Yeah. Okay.
We were just,
Got it.
so there's three phenolic panel companies, and that we're trying to do, and they all have completely different wood samples. So we're gonna have to calibrate that with the brick, and it might not be
I
completely
literally have
calibrated
them
until
in front of me. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. I mean, this is, yeah.
we might not be able to get the final decision on that until the bids come in and we realize which manufacturer we have, and then we'll have to kind of assemble it then.
It's a true statement of every material here. The brick colors, specific tone of bricks, the specific tone of CMU.
And are you going to do exposed fastener?
No. Concealed. We find that the exposed fasteners wind up with streaking over time. And with the rain screen, it's just as easy to do concealed fasteners.
Great.
Other questions, comments?
So Bill, maybe you just advance to our final slide. Just touch on, so I think, you know, in many ways, we've already talked about this. Ian laid out the schedule before, and we're kind of continuing to meet our milestones. Next week, we have a series of programming sessions that will enable us to dig a little deeper with Lori and Justin and their team about how we might equip the interior spaces to better serve the education program. And then you can see our next design subcommittee meeting in 1 month from now. You'll see both aesthetic, formal, and kind of usage advancement of those major programmatic spaces of the classrooms, team commons, auditorium, cafeteria, gym. And then this will also enable us to, next week, we also intend to talk a little bit more about the site and, you know, specific usage, location, character of the outdoor learning and various things like that. So we've appreciated the opportunity to update you on where we're headed, and we're headed back to the building committee next week and then back to this group on April 14th.
Excellent. Okay, thank you. Bill, might we ask that you send us a copy of the slides after you double check those couple of footers that you were going to change?
Yes, we can do that.
That'd be great. Thank you. Our agenda calls for a look at any recommendations coming out of today's meeting. I'm not seeing any necessary, thus no action items. We know where we're headed. Today largely constitutes a necessary and helpful update and gets us ready for next week. Would everybody agree with that assessment?
Yeah, Court, I had a question.
Yes, please.
Designers. Two things. One, I think you're in really good shape for DD. I think part of the work you did for schematic design got you pretty far along. So great job. And thank you for making the value management adjustments. That was helpful to see. So great job. My question is, do you have room data sheets that you're bringing in front of the users to have those conversations?
Yes.
Yes.
Those should
Okay.
be part of the SD package as well.
Okay. All right, great. Thanks.
And help me understand, data sheets for purposes of green material understanding?
No.
No, what? Help me understand.
I'll speak for you, Lorraine. They're basically sheets that take each unique space. So like in the case of a classroom, there's one for a typical classroom, one for a typical art room, but they have a floor plan. They sometimes have a reflected ceiling plan, but they speak to all of what's happening in the room. Like it'll show at some point, and I don't know if you're there yet, it'll show all the marker boards, stack boards, it'll show the
Okay.
room layout, it'll speak to the furniture, it'll tell what systems it is, you know, how much, like what the electrical is, what kind of lights, there'll be LEDs. So it basically categorizes
So room
each
data,
space.
not
It's called a
material
room data sheet.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I mean, it'll speak to what material, like it might say linoleum for flooring, it might say ACT for, you know, ceiling
Mhm.
materials. Did I get it right, Lorraine? I
Yep,
mean,
yep.
I live in those, so.
Yep.
But they're
Okay.
helpful to help, you know, you meet with an art teacher or a handful of art teachers, it's helpful to sit down with a layout and say, here's what a typical room looks like. What kind of, you know,
Right.
drawing storage do you need? Where does your kiln go? That sort of thing. So these room data sheets become valuable in those meetings. So
Mhm.
great,
Even lists out some of the furniture.
exactly.
Good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Any other comments, questions?
Yeah, I have one.
Yes,
It's
please.
really a scheduling question. I'm just wondering when we're going to see the work on the acoustical fence, and when we're going to have that discussion. I don't need to know any more about the details of where we're at with it. I just like to know when we're going to dive into that.
I would say we got the recommendations from Acentec last week. There were 16 options. I think we'll need a few weeks to go through the options and understand what can be accomplished within the HVAC system. Which is our preference, Charlie, is to see the ductwork
Thank
coming
you.
out of it, the opening
All
and
the-
ventilation on the ductwork.
collection.
So I think, sorry, say that again, Charlie.
I just wondered if all the data collection was completed and we're all basically done there.
We have the data collection. I can send you, if I hadn't done so already, I thought I had, but I will send you the report where we recorded all the readings. So we have what our target is. I can send you that if.
That'd be great.
You're okay. I'll make sure it goes out. Yep,
Thank you.
sure.
Anything else? We'll turn to public comments. If you have a question or a comment, I'll recognize Colin Reed. Name and address, please, Colin.
Thank you, Carlin Reed, 83 Wits End. This will be quick. It's good to know where we're going from here. I was concerned that it would be somewhat of a black hole from the public view, but you're doing fine. And it's good to know that the design committee is still involved in this and that you've still got some work to do. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Pat Nelson, co-chair. Pat, you're on mute.
Thanks. Yeah.
There you go.
Sorry. I just want to say how exciting this is. And I am so sorry that Lori has to be dealing with Peabody for a variety of reasons, but I think she would have, you know, she will be thrilled when she sees this. I'm thrilled. It looks like a wonderful building for children. And I want to thank you all for the work that you've done.
Thank you, Pat. Other comments, questions? Hearing none, I'm going to ask for a motion to adjourn. This is a tight meeting. It took us a little over an hour. Is there a motion to adjourn, please?
So moved.
Moved.
And Dawn beat you to it, Chris. Would you kindly second
I
that?
will second that motion.
I like to win, Chris.
All right, roll call, Booth, aye. Gariello
Yes.
and Popov
Yes.
and Parker.
Yes.
Thank you very much, all. Have a good day. Happy
Thanks,
St.
everyone.
Patrick's Day.
Thank you very
Thank
much,
you.
all.